everyone, my name is ZeBirdBrain and today we are talking about cutout animation. Yay! And now I put the disclaimer. So I know a lot about harmony and animation and stuff. Do I know a lot about cutout? No, but I know a little bit. So I'm gonna give you some tips and tricks. So let it be known, most of my cutout experience is working on Wakfu Season 3. On Flash CS4. It was horrible. Okay, so today is like part 2 of cutout tricks because I thought it was gonna be one video and then I looked at the time. That thing was like 10 minutes long, so I'm gonna make a second one, and here's the second one. So, last time I showed you a bit about the interface, like the views and some buttons that are useful. So here are some other tricks to animate in cutout. You know, I showed you the coordinate and control point window. The reason why I don't use that view that much is because we have kind of like a slimmed down version of it. So to find it, you go into your toolbars. So we're gonna see a bunch of toolbars that are useful for cutout animation. If you right click, you're gonna see a toolbar that is called coordinate. So let it be known, it's a long one. So I usually have a second row just for this one. And it's basically taking this information here and putting it into a very simple version. So I love to use that toolbar to see what the Z depth of my pieces are. For example, like is that arm forward or backward? It's gonna show you here the Z depth of the piece. And not only will it show you the Z-depth of that piece, it's going to show you the cumulative Z-depth of that piece. So here this arm is too forward, but sometimes when you work in very complex setup, you will click on a piece and you don't know why it's in front of everything or not. So sometimes this is because that piece is being carried by another piece that is in front. So that is what cumulative Z-depth could be. So it's going to show you like what is that piece being carried on by other pegs. Okay, so that's pretty useful. You're going to see that if you have a scene that is complex enough. So that's what the cumulative Z is for. Another cool toolbar is the node caching toolbar. It's that toolbar with the little lightning bolts. You can find it. It's called node caching. I have a full video on it, so I'm not going to talk about it, but you should check this one out. I'll put the link in the description for you to go check it. So node caching is basically if my rig is very heavy, I will be able to have my rig be smaller in a way by just putting a composite under it and clicking here to cache it. And then it's going to give it like a very bad quality, but it's going to make the animation play faster until I press on it to be able to animate that piece again. So very useful. And then I'm going to deactivate it by just uncaching my composite. But that is that toolbar. Now that the toolbars are out of the way, let's focus on the timeline. By the way, my timeline's toolbar disappeared. This happens sometimes when I call the coordinate toolbar up there. I don't know why, but if you want it back, it's very easy. Just gonna right click, get my playback view, bring it here, and just put it back in place. I did not delete and edit that footage. I wanted you guys to see it because it happens to everyone. It happens to me. Sometimes the timeline's toolbar disappears, and that's how you get it back, okay? No panic. So in the timeline, if you see that your rig is all open like that, let it be known. If you press on 0, it's going to collapse the whole thing. And if you press on 9, it's going to open everything in your rig, which can be very useful if you're trying to figure out something in the rig. I'll be honest, I rarely click on 9 to open the rig. I usually use the 0 to be able to close my rig wherever I am in that rig, because sometimes I'm too lazy to just go up. I just press 0 and it's closed, and then I can kind of start over and find my master and whatnot. So 0 to collapse everything, 9 to open everything. Pretty useful. Also in the timeline, you see here we have this toolbar. Because of how I set up my interface, sometimes I would need more space, but you can also get rid of things that you don't need. So if I right click on customize, you see that I already kind of cleaned up my timeline. There's a lot of icons here that you probably don't have. So if I set it back to default, just to show you, I personally get rid of the quick ease because I don't use them, but some cutout animators love them. If you work on a show that has a lot of the same like ease in, ease outs that are very, very common, especially for preschool or easier animated show, these are very useful. I just tend to work on shows that are a bit more complex, so they don't apply very well. So I personally take all of these and I get rid of them by putting them on the side. Also, these I don't use it, so I usually remove it. Add prefix or suffix, I do that in rigging, not in cutout, so I remove it. So it's very important for you to customize this toolbar for the job you're going to do, because then it's going to be optimized for what you're doing. Add key exposure and remove key exposures are useful, so I tend to keep them, but sometimes if I need space, they will go. So see, now I only have exactly what I always need. But there's one that's missing, and it's one of my favorite things. So I'm going to show you how to get it. You can press on KEY and you're going to find stop motion keyframe mode, which is completely phenomenal. It's one of my favorite things. It's a thing that I personally requested at Toulouse. That's kind of cool that it's in there. So stop motion keyframe mode, what this does is that it will allow you to activate or deactivate the stop motion mode. This thing is exactly like going to your preferences and then finding this button and activating it and deactivating it. That's the exact same thing, but you don't need to go into your preferences to do that. Yay! While I'm in the timeline and talking about efficiency, don't forget that to add a keyframe, you can press on F6. To delete a keyframe, you can press on F7. And the set motion keyframes shortcut is Ctrl-K or Ctrl-L, though a lot of people change them, but I'd rather show you like the main ones. And then you have go to previous keyframe and go to next keyframe. You might need to change those because they don't work on every keyboard, but they're very useful keys to use. So I want to show you another thing here. If you go to the advanced animation toolbar, these blue icons, if you click on the rotate button and you click on a piece, instead of moving it by clicking, which you can also use the keyboard keys, so left and right, to kind of move your piece really precisely. You can also use shift and the side arrows to move your piece. And of course, if you click on a peg and you press that and you have your transform tool active and you press on R, you will reset that piece to normal, so the letter R, like Roberts. And while we're zoomed here, I want to show also that you see that bounding box. Remember that it's always a square that is going to be like with the camera. So if I take that little piece here and I want to make it longer, now it works. But sometimes if you rotate your camera, you might get an angle that is even better for you to play with. Okay, so you see my kind of bounding box changes depending on where I am in the screen. And don't forget that if you want to go back to normal, if you're rotated, you press on Shift X to come back to the real rotation and Shift M to go back to your whole scene. Okay, I hope you had fun, and I'll see you again next week for another video. Yay!